even just as a creator, thinking about the choices I make now, whether that's what like making this show versus something else, or doing like I'm choosing things now, even if they're like have less financial potential or less success possibilities, like whatever the things before that really like drove me.
Yeah.
I've had to really work to take a step back and say, it doesn't really matter what external success things get you if you're still miserable. And like
Exactly.
if you're just trapped in a prison of what everyone else thinks of you all the time, that's no way to live your life. And so, but it's so much easier said than done, I think, in real life practice, especially when you're like, for me, it's this hard balance of I want to create and use the internet to get a message out, to help people, to connect with people, to do like all the positive sides of it. But when it's the water you swim in, it tends to creep up on you, and it's a really hard battle, I think, for online creators right now to find a healthy balance between the two.
It is. And that's why, so going back to the three components of self-compassion, and you really need all three for this to be a healthy, stable mindset. The first is mindfulness. You
Mm.
got to be aware constantly. You got to check in, is this true for me? Is this what I want to be doing? What messages are being sent? Maybe they're very subtle. Do I buy into those messages?
Hmm.
The sense of connectedness is really important because, and also culture kind of wants us to think, we're going to reject you. You're going to be all alone unless you're what we want you to be, unless you're
Mm.
successful, you look a certain way. Here's the thing about self-compassion. Your sense of connectedness doesn't come from like literally other people approving of you. Your sense of connectedness is seeing your interdependence with all of humanity. You can go larger, all of life. If you're a spiritual person, you can go all the way out to non-duality, right?
Right.
So instead of allowing ourselves to feel isolated and alone, which is very scary for us as human beings, if we don't achieve or if people
Sure.
don't like us, our sense of connectedness also comes internally. I mean,
Mm.
just knowing that we're an intrinsic part of life, worthy whether or not we achieve, right? And so that sense of connectedness, again, just being aware of it, how that fear of being alone and isolated makes us control so many of our decisions. The more we're able to just understand, hey, we're part of life. You can't take that away from me. I'm not alone,
Mm.
helps us feel more safe. And then finally, again, just the kindness. And it does take some practice. You may need to put sticky notes up around your house. You may need to read books. You do have to work on it because your neurons are used to going down the pathway of self-criticism, isolation, and kind of obliviousness, right? So
Right.
you have to work on it. It is a practice, but it's actually not that hard. All you got to do is say, what would I say to a good friend I cared about in the same situation?
Yeah.
You don't have to read a book to know the answer to that. You know it. You just have
Mm.
to remember to do it.
Right. Yeah, I got kind of, as you were talking, I had a little bit of a devastating moment thinking about how many wrong or unhealthy choices have been made just out of pure fear of, and not in a place of self-compassion, of just doing things because you feel like it's what you should be doing versus what's actually self-loving, which is it's an intense thing, but it's also super encouraging to hear that there are ways around it too.
And also, don't beat yourself up for beating yourself up. Because we need to remember, because we can start doing that, use the old patterns. We
Yeah.
need to remember that we're just trying to be safe. We're just
Mm.
trying to be safe. We're just trying to be loved. That's so human, isn't it? Of course, we want to be loved by others. What could be more natural, right?
Mm. Right.
But when we can remember that actually it's not helpful. It's not achieving the goal we want it to, which is to be safe and loved. The
Yeah.
more effective way to achieve the goal of to be safe and loved is to really give that to ourselves as much
Mm.
as possible.
Yeah.
Again, maybe you are that lawyer who just makes a lot of money. Maybe your parents think you're great and everyone gives you all this praise, but you could be miserable inside. We know many people who experience that.
Right.
Right. So what's the true source of happiness?
Right.
Is it external success or is it doing what you want to be doing? And you still have to pay your bills and all those things. Of course
Of
you do
course.
this. But, again, what really makes me happy? That's the question of self-compassion. What do I really need? And you got to have guts to ask yourself that question and then to follow the answer.
Right.
And that's why you need the fierce self-compassion. I call it mama bear self-compassion. It's like bravery.
Mm.